Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, our mission is to take a magnifying glass to a single, incredibly potent piece of source material.
A really fascinating one.
It's a 1979 speech delivered by Reverend Sun Myung Moon in Belvedere, Tarrytown, New York, and it's titled Thanksgiving to God's Will.
And we should say this is not just a sermon in the typical sense. It's a full spectrum critique of late 20th century America.
Exactly. It's a diagnosis of what the speaker sees as moral, social, and political decay. And then it offers this deeply radical spiritual prescription.
That's the key right there. You have to put yourself in that moment in 1979. A lot of people felt disoriented, with the economy, the culture shifting. And the speaker really leverages that anxiety to argue that society is suffering from a fundamental illness. The core tension is the spiritual state of a nation that, he argues, has just fundamentally lost its way.
And the proposed solution isn't a small tweak, it's a total overhaul.
A total overhaul, through an ideology called Godism, which claims to transcend the failings of both democracy and communism. So for you, the listener, this deep dive is really a shortcut into a worldview that tries to redefine everything: ambition, morality, even global structure.
Okay, let's unpack this. So the critique, it doesn't start with policy or politics. It starts with people.
Specifically young people.
Right, the youth and the national spirit. The source paints this really stark, uncompromising picture. It describes them as living in a state of intoxication, but without a goal.
Self-centered, avoiding responsibility. That's the charge.
But to get the critique, you have to understand what the speaker claims they abandon.
Precisely. We need to pause on that historical contrast he draws. He argues that the original DNA of America, its founding spirit, wasn't purely political or democratic.
Yeah.
It was, in his words, basically religious and focused on a God-centered ideology. The whole decline, the source claims, began when the nation shifted away from that spiritual core and became, quote, totally materialistic.
And that's not just a moral complaint. It's presented as the root cause of all the social rot that follows.
Yes. And this materialism, according to the stuff, is all quantified by one thing.
The dollar.
The dollar. Money becomes almighty.
I found the specificity here just incredibly potent. The source doesn't just generalize, it drills down into how our economic system literally defines human dignity.
And that's where the deep dive value is, really. The source uses the minimum wage law of the time, which was, $2.95 an hour in 1979?
Yeah, $2.95.
And uses that as the literal measure of a human being's value. Think about that framing for a second. The government sets a price point for 3 hours of your life at $10.
Wow.
It's a powerful, almost theological move to link a person's dignity so directly to a fluctuating economic number. If you're only worth $2.95 an hour, the source suggests your worth is inherently small.
Framing it literally in terms of that dollar figure is.
Yeah.
It's chilling. It turns capitalism into a theological problem. And the argument doesn't just stop at the workplace, does it?
No, not at all. It infiltrates and corrupts relationships. The source gives these really powerful examples of how money just dominates the family.
It says children judge their parents for being poor.
Exactly. They see them as failures because they couldn't make more money. And it claims that when women look for a husband, they're primarily, and I'm quoting here, checking in terms of dollars.
So every bond just becomes an economic ledger.
That's the materialistic trap.
So if this dollar-based system dictates your low value, the inevitable consequence is, social disaster. People try to find compensation somewhere else.
Right. They abuse their freedom. And when their natural, infinite desires, their spiritual fantasies can't be met by, a paycheck, they seek intoxicating happiness through external means.
Like drugs.
Like drugs. They feel they've hit a stone wall. The source argues this is the logical, tragic endgame.
And the speaker backs this up with some pretty staggering statistics from the time.
Oh, yeah. He claims that in the year before the speech, 38,000 young people committed suicide, and that the rate of attempted suicides was 50% greater than that. This isn't just presented as a tragedy, it's used as proof that the materialistic foundation of society is actively killing its own youth.
So, if the system is leading to this profound despair, the next logical step for people is denial. A massive act of denial.
They start denying everything associated with it. Money, democracy, marriage, parents, all of it.
But the source immediately presents the dilemma in that. If you deny all these, let's say, lesser corrupt things, without having a clear, greater substitute, what happens?
You end up denying yourself. You collapse into a kind of spiritual nihilism and become what the Source just unflinchingly calls human trash.
The core idea there is that you can only deny a lesser value, like the whole world, if you first secured a greater one.
Exactly. The universe, or cosmos itself.
Which sets the stage perfectly for the big ideological confrontation. People start looking for a substitute, and they often stumble into political systems that claim to offer that value.
And the source material offers a truly uncompromising report on the failures of both prevailing systems at the time.
Let's start with the critique of communism. The speaker claims it fundamentally denies individual rights and freedom.
And most critically, that the system itself becomes God. That's the core spiritual accusation.
And he continues that communism sacrifices human life, love, the family, all for the system's survival, and that it's based on lies. We have to be clear here, we're strictly reporting what the source material is arguing.
Of course. And what's the parallel critique leveled against democracy? The source concludes that democracy, while it has merits, it's a great ideal. It ultimately fails to digest the human situation.
Meaning?
It suggests both systems have reached a dead end. Democracy focuses too much on fragmented individual freedoms, communism too much on the collective machine. Neither can provide the real answer.
Okay, let's connect this ideological stalemate to the bigger picture. The source argues that deadlock exists because neither system can satisfy the inherent infinite ambition of a human being.
This is a truly cosmic level argument. The contradiction is profound. Physically, a person is small, tiny compared to the world. But our desires, our ideals, our goals, they're described as being greater than the universe. So the source demands an ideology that is itself greater than the world, the universe, and the cosmos to resolve this.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Once the societal critique is done and the need for this cosmic ideology is established, the speech pivots. It goes straight to spiritual proof.
The argument becomes that the only thing that can satisfy this infinite ambition is God. And God's existence is proven not by faith, but by logic, by universal order.
The speaker uses the sheer precision of the universe as Exhibit A. He points to millions of solar systems, galaxies, all in this constant ordered motion.
Then comes this great question. If the movement is so exact, how is it that we have never heard of a traffic accident between planets in the universe?
Right.
This flawless orchestration, it demands a prior will, a cause. It couldn't be random.
And the most fascinating nugget he uses to prove this pre-existing intelligence is the eye analogy. He apparently presented this to a communist materialist.
The logic is simple, but it's compelling. The human eye was made to perceive light, to see the sun. But the puzzle is, how did the baby's eye, developing in the total darkness of the womb, know the sun was even shining?
Good question.
The only logical conclusion, according to the source, is that some cosmic knowledge knew and matched the sun's rays with the eye.
And this cosmic planner didn't just stop there. The engineering details are incredible.
Right. Eyelashes to protect from dust, a built-in water supply to keep it moist. Without it, the eye would dry out like a fisheye after 3 days. The intricacy of the human body, this mystery palace, is offered as proof that someone planned this universe.
That belief in an intelligent, ordered universe then leads right back inside the individual to resolve that mind versus body conflict.
The conflict at the heart of the human situation that democracy couldn't digest.
And the source argues that the mind, or your conscience, always pursues a public purpose, a giving way of life, and that's defined as good.
Conversely, the body is driven by immediate, sensual, self-centered desires, and those are defined as evil precisely because they isolate you from that greater purpose.
So if you follow that me-first philosophy,
the source warns you're building a life that is fundamentally designed for isolation, a life where you're constantly fighting your own conscience, and eventually everyone, your parents, friends, children, will all go away.
You end up alone, hitting that stone wall with a bloody face. This isolated person feels total paranoia, even hearing the birds singing as a form of criticism.
That's the complete breakdown of the materialistic man. And the only way out, the only alternative, is the ideological solution that encompasses all of it. Godism.
So let's define Godism more clearly. It's not just a set of beliefs. It's called the absolutely God-centered ideology that resolves the core human contradiction.
By offering total harmony between man's mind and body.
And how does it do that? It does so by giving the unified self one ultimate, shared, infinite ambition to possess God.
And since God is invisible, the method for connecting is defined in these fascinating, almost physical terms. It's through a spiritual substance
Genuine gold love.
with 100% conductibility. It's like an electrical metaphor for perfect spiritual transfer. This love has to be so pure that when it hits God's heart, the energy transfer will literally make him jump from the shock of it.
Causing the greatest thunder and lightning. The ambition is to shock the Creator with the quality of your love.
And to really emphasize this idea of conquering God's essence, the speaker introduces a newly coined Korean word, shimjung.
Translated for the listener as heartle.
It represents the innermost emotional core of God's heart, his love and his grief. And the ultimate goal for the wisest people, the source says, is to snatch it and put it in your pocketbook.
That is a profoundly radical metaphor. It's not just about worshiping God, it's about containing, conquering, and even comforting God's deepest emotional reality.
Which is the only way, according to this logic, to satisfy a human being's infinite ambition.
And this love revolution, it completely reorders your priorities. The source states that true love provides the highest education of all, and that it surpasses a diploma from Harvard or Yale.
And this change in values is meant to be practical. The source observes that Unification Church members at the time just didn't care about material wealth.
They'd prefer a signed picture over a good watch.
Right, because money is just an instrument. It's an accessory of the beautiful love of God, only useful in service to that love.
This pursuit of God's heart isn't just an internal feeling, though. It comes with a practical master plan for restoration that moves outward.
From the individual to the mate to the family, society, nation, and finally, the world.
And the incredible proclamation that summarizes this whole mission is the need to
Liberate God. The idea is that God has been suffering since the fall, and the ultimate human responsibility is to reconnect that broken circuit of love so that God can truly love the world again, referencing John 3:16.
The goal is to end God's grief.
And this commitment to universal love was meant to be manifested in very specific, real-world actions, like the 705 couples engagement. This established what the speaker called the love race.
A practical denial of tradition and racial division.
Absolutely. By embracing interracial marriage, and the source uses the very striking example of a white woman asking for a black husband, it was publicly rejecting racial and national segregation. It was designed to shatter the very traditions the speaker claimed were locking the world in deadlock.
So what does this all mean? We've seen the source establish an ultimate value that cannot be swapped for anything. Not money, not power, not even democracy.
And the purpose of life on Earth in this ideology is to continually expand the capacity of your container to receive more and more of this potent gold standard love from God.
This cosmic ambition is then tied to a very ground-level mandate called the home church.
Right, the 360 home area becomes your spiritual battleground. Members have to gain the acceptance of at least 288 of those homes to become the tribal messiah for that area.
So the grand cosmic goal is tied to local door-to-door acceptance. But perhaps the most radical expectation here is the mandate for constant radical gratitude.
Despite the immense burden, the intense requirements, the persecution, the ideology demands unconditional thanksgiving.
It insists on being grateful even for persecution.
The logic being that those who persecute you are actually helping you fulfill the necessary qualifications. They're accelerating your spiritual growth. It's a complete inversion of pain.
And the source pushes this to the absolute limit, suggesting that even being crippled should lead to thanks.
Why? Because your condition serves a godly purpose. It helps healthy people appreciate their own condition and spurs them to action.
It's an ideology that asks you to be grateful for the very things that would cause others despair, all because they are seen as stepping stones.
Stepping stones to that ultimate goal, conquering God's heart.
So here's a final thought to mull over. If your greatest ambition is to conquer God's heart, does that change what you are willing to be grateful for today? Something to reflect on from this incredibly dense and provocative deep dive. Thank you for joining us.